Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound.
All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerred Moon, and welcome to the Better Humanology Podcast, where our aim is to make you and make ourselves a better human being. So today I am actually by myself because I really just want to talk training today. So this episode might be a little bit shorter than normal, but that's okay because I want to really talk about how, something I have mentioned over and over in the podcast and I've gotten asked about is the thing I worry most about in my training now is kind of maybe call it a plateau or call it just not pushing yourself as hard as you should. And I want to talk about how hard you should be pushing yourself and how to know if you are actually pushing yourself that hard, which is going to end up in me talking a lot about energy system training. And if that sounds crazy to you, it's really not crazy at all. So I'm going to cover that topic, and we're going to go in detail because I actually hate it when a lot of people talk about energy system training, and I'm going to get into why and maybe what they don't understand or what they might be doing wrong. Hopefully give you a better understanding and something more actionable that you could apply to your training on a weekly basis. Before I do that, I will give you a quick, brief Murph update. So this past week, 2 weeks ago, I PR'd my Murph time with a vest on. And the reason being, I really think the reason being is because the weather is getting ever so slightly cooler here in Texas. It's not super hot anymore. We moved out of the 100 plus degree down into the 90s and upper 80s, and as it progresses into fall, before it gets colder, I really think that my times will kind of peak and then maybe won't be good in the winter and then maybe peak again in the springtime. So that's why I think that this is happening. I don't really think that I've just all of a sudden gotten a lot fitter. I think it has a lot to do with temperature. So this past week I hit another PR, but this time with no vest on, no vested Murph at 28:17. And, what the main thing that I'm learning in Murph, and I've talked about it in some of the articles I've written, is if you want a fast Murph time, then what you have to do is just fewer transitions. The fewest transitions possible, which is going to mean breaking up your calisthenics into very few sets. And so that's what I've been doing. Instead of breaking up into 5 like I've done before, I broke it up into 10, and that was kind of the sweet spot. And to be honest, with how fast I have to move, I'm starting to find that the unvested Murph is a little bit more challenging than the vested Murph, because the vested Murph, I might just hit muscle failure on a set, and that doesn't happen on the unvested Murph, so I just have to constantly be moving. There's no excuse for me to slow down, and so I get to that red line point every once in a while in the workout, so I'm starting to find those workouts really challenging, moving sub 30. And so Murph number 30 is coming up, and I think what I'm going to do, instead of making like a big deal about it, I'll probably just post about it on Instagram, and you guys can vote in the comments, whether one person votes or 100 people votes. I'll probably just do, whatever you guys want. So follow me on Instagram if you don't already, at EO3_fit, or you could search for me, Jerred Moon, or Into 3 Fitness. I'm sure I'll pop up somewhere, and you can vote for that. And I'll do, like I said, I'm maybe doing number 30 as a double-weighted Murph or something like that. So just keeping the Murph tradition going. And if you guys have any questions about that, let me know. So better human bullets for this week. First, I hope you guys had fun with Bring Sally Up last week. It's one of my favorite workouts. It's super challenging. Probably more mental toughness than anything else. And it was a lot of fun for me. I enjoyed that one. So we're doing another squat workout this week for your fitness challenge. And we're doing Tabata Air Squat. And the reason I'm bringing Tabata Air Squat is because we just opened up our Shred program, and people are registering for that right now. And you can do so at the link in the show notes for this episode. You just go to into3fitness.com, find the show notes if you're interested in our Shred program. At the end of this episode, I will be playing a little bit more information about Shred. But anyway, one of the things that we do in the first week of Shred is Tabata Air Squat testing. And so if you're unfamiliar with Tabata is simply doing 20 seconds of work followed by 10 seconds of rest for 8 total intervals, which is going to equal 4 minutes of work. But the thing that I love most about Tabata is not only is it effective and it has a lot of research behind it, it's a huge mental game, because if you're doing Tabata correctly, and a lot of people don't do this or know this, your score in a Tabata workout is your lowest set of repetitions. So say we're doing Tabata air squats, and you do 20 air squats on sets 1 through 7, but then you do 6 on set 8 because you just burnt yourself out. Your score is 6. And so that's why I love that, because it's kind of you want to pace yourself in the beginning, but if you pace yourself too much, then maybe, round 1 was your score. And if you go too fast, then you're going to burn out and not be able to hold that pace. So it's really a huge mind game and can play a lot into your overall fitness. My recommendation for Tabata, instead of trying to game it, since it's only 20 seconds worth of work, is just go all out every single set and then see where you're at. Because you're not comparing this to anyone else, you're comparing it to yourself. So if you can hold 20, 25 squats the whole time, then do that. And if you can't, you get completely burnt out and you can only do 2 squats, then just remember that for next time and see how much you can improve. So Tabata air squats, I'm only wanting you to do 1 set. So that's 4 minutes worth of exercise. You can do that pretty easily. And there are a million Tabata timers out there for iPhone and Android. So just download one. They're free. It'll do the timer for you, so you don't have to even think about it. Now moving on to the mental toughness challenge for this week. A simple one, and this one has to do with neuroplasticity, and then just also doing something that can be extremely tedious and annoying. And these small mental hurdles, when challenged on a daily or weekly basis, are what I think can make you better. And so this one's pretty simple, but super annoying, and that's write your name 50 times in a row. So you can't stop, just keep writing your name 50 times in a row with the opposite hand. So I'm right-handed, I'm going to do this with my left hand, write my name 50 times, first and last name. And I will probably hate it. It's going to feel very uncomfortable because a different side of your brain is having to work. That's where the neuroplasticity comes in, building those new pathways in your brain. Your brain's having to work in different ways. And then also, it might just be, depending on your coordination level, it might just be super annoying and frustrating, which would be awesome, because then you have an opportunity to work on your mental toughness and getting over these small things. So pretty easy one. Write your name with the opposite hand 50 times in a row. And then lastly, for the Better Human Bullets this week, a book. So we're kind of going with a science and technology type book this week. The book is Bad Science, Quacks, Hacks, and Big Pharma Flax by Ben Goldacre. So you've probably heard me at least mention this book on the podcast before, because I think it's a very interesting book. It goes over, in health and fitness and science and everything, there are a lot of stuff out there that's awesome, and there's a lot of stuff out there that's kind of not backed by any sort of science, and just a little questionable at times is the best way I could put it. And this book does a good job of just going over the scientific method and talking about how some of these people and their different methods, how they came to their conclusions, and how it's total BS. And it just kind of gives you a good perspective on a lot of things that are out there, and maybe how you should approach and look at things in the future when you see some new fitness fad or detox cleanse or something like that. Whenever that comes out, you'll be armed with this knowledge to kind of combat that after reading this book. So definitely check it out one more time. It's Bad Science, Quacks, Hacks, and Big Pharma Flax by Ben Goldacre. All right, so now let's hop into kind of the show, what I want to talk about today, and it's your training and how you're going to be pushing yourself, and how to actually measure and pursue discomfort so you continually are seeing gains throughout your training. And this is something, I train alone a majority of the time, and so I had to find a lot of creative ways to continue to push myself with no one else there, and to continue to see results. Because just putting the reps in is step one. If you're not doing that, that's step one. Put the reps in. Start to get fitter. And then step two, if you're looking to pursue performance, that's kind of what we're talking about today, and how to continually push yourself. And it comes down to energy systems training, training different energy pathways. And, the thing that I hate most about even saying that, training different energy pathways or energy systems, is it's such a buzzword. And so many, what happened is CrossFit came out, numerous years ago with a CrossFit Level 1 certification, and they put energy systems into their training. And a lot of other certifications don't do that. You normally have to be either educated into what they are, read about them yourself, or pick it up somewhere else. Because most people, unless you're a high-level strength and conditioning coach or a high-level athlete, you don't care about this stuff. And to be honest, you probably, like most people, don't need to care about this stuff, but I know some of you will, and that's the main reason I want to hit it, because it is becoming these buzzwords. People are like, oh yeah, I'm training the glycolytic pathway today or whatever. It's kind of getting ridiculous in my opinion, and there are very few people who have a good understanding about it. So I want to talk about it, because training at Into 3 Fitness, I care more about training your energy systems than I do your muscle up. Now, I still want you to practice those skills and get better in a lot of different areas, but I care way more about making sure that you're fit on a lot of different levels, as opposed to your muscle up or your double under, because that stuff is just skill practice. There's no secret workout I can give you to make you master the muscle up. I could coach you to get a muscle up, and then you can work on them and string them together, but I prefer to put workouts together that I know are going to make you a fitter human being. So this is kind of energy systems training, like a primer on building better human beings. So you could store this information away in your head just to know it, or you can start applying it right away. So I'm going to start I'm just going to go over what the energy systems are, and then I won't refer to them in this way anymore after this. So there are 3 energy systems. There is phosphocreatine, and there are different names for that, but essentially that pathway is your energy system, what's used for 0 to 10 seconds. And you could get a lot into the bioenergetics and what ATP and what fuel your body is using at each different level, but I'm not going to get into that stuff. That's too far. Just know that there are 3 energy systems. The first one, phosphocreatine, is for burst type stuff, 0 to 10 seconds, 12 seconds. That is phosphocreatine pathway. Then there's the glycolytic pathway, and this can be up to 2 minutes, so up to 2 minutes of a 2-minute burst, extreme exercise, highly intense exercise, up to 2 minutes, glycolytic pathway. And then the last one, most everyone has at least heard about, the aerobic pathway or oxidative pathway, is 3+ minutes, or it could be 2+ minutes, 2.5+ minutes. But to be honest, the time frames don't matter, and that's what makes me most frustrated about energy pathways. The time frames do matter, but they don't in a certain way, and I'll get into that in just a second. So those are the 3 energy systems. And like I said, I'm not going to, if you want to study the bioenergetics or get into slow glycolysis or fast glycolysis, you can go read about that stuff on your own. That's too complicated for any really coach or athlete. You don't need to know that stuff to be better. I'm going to break it down very simple now and tell you how you can actually utilize this stuff. And if you think that you already are utilizing it, you might not be using it correctly. So let's start with renaming them. And I got this from OPT. This is what he calls them, and I just love it because it breaks it down. So instead of phosphocreatine, glycolytic, and aerobic, we're going to call it gain, pain, and sustain. So gain is the short one, pain is that, up to 2 minutes, and then sustain is aerobic workouts. So that's what I'll refer to them as for the rest of this podcast, because it's a lot easier. And to be honest, I do think that a lot of coaches just want to throw the word glycolytic pathway at you because it makes them sound smarter. But if you are a coach out there and you're doing that to your athletes, and your athletes are beginners, 1, beginners don't need to be training energy systems, and 2, they don't care about you training their energy systems. They'd rather know what the benefit is, not the fact that they're going to be in the glycolytic pathway today. So I'm going to try and get off that soapbox or that rant. I just want to make it very apparent about when you should be using these things and what you should refer to them as. So we got gain, pain, and sustain. And so the first thing I do want to point out is the time domains. I mentioned, the gain is 0 to 10 seconds, the pain is up to 2 minutes, and then the sustain, 3 minutes plus. And the reason I don't like putting the time domains, even though they're 100% accurate, is there has to be intensity attached for that to matter. A lot of people never, ever train in the glycolytic pathway. It is extremely painful, and it's brutal, and it takes a long time to recover from that. So if you're a pretty fit athlete, and you do, say you are a really fit athlete and you do Fran, let's not use Fran as an example. Say you do some really hard CrossFit workout and you finish in 2 minutes. But then you're able to, kind of recover in about 5 minutes and then hit another one. You're in such good shape that you were not utilizing the glycolytic pathway. You are using the aerobic pathway. And that's where this gets confusing and why the time domains don't matter, because your level of fitness will matter on what you're doing. And then another thing to note is that every single energy pathway, gain, pain, and sustain, they're being utilized at the same time no matter what the workout is. It just depends on what's dominant for you and how your body is utilizing that energy. So just know that all of the systems are being utilized at the exact same time. There's no like, I'm only training the glycolytic, or I'm only training the pain zone, or I'm only training the sustain zone. All pathways are being used at all times. And then another thing to factor in here for the more advanced athletes is time is not the determining factor. If you did a short 10-second burst, or you did an under 2 minute faster workout, that doesn't mean that you are in a specific energy pathway like gain or pain. That's not what that means. What you actually have to track or know is the intensity level that you were at and the recovery. So let's talk about that for a second. So if I want to train the pain zone, the glycolytic, up to 2 minutes, there should be a significant amount of recovery time in there because my intensity level is going to be so high. And I say significant time for recovery, I'm talking about 15 to 20 minutes of recovery. And we just had Mike McGoldrick on the podcast not long ago, and he talks about going, if you listen to it, just when he talks about workouts, he talks about kind of going there and how painful it's going to be. And this dude is extremely fit. I mean, he's been to the CrossFit Games, and he's talking about that. And that's because he gets into these pain zones and he knows, what it feels like. That pain zone is significant, the intensity is high, and recovery is long. And so if you do a workout and it only takes you about 2 minutes and you feel like you really pushed yourself, but you're pretty much recovered at 5 minutes, I don't care if you're a games athlete, I don't care if you are, just starting out, just because you pushed yourself really hard doesn't mean that you really trained that pain zone, that glycolytic pathway. That's not what that means just because there was a time domain attached to it. You need to look at your intensity. Was the intensity actually max effort? Meaning, if you're doing 2 minutes as hard as you could, would at 2 minutes and 5 seconds, would your performance just significantly drop and tank after that? Or could you maybe push in, the same, could you push the same pace for another minute? If you could, then you're not in the glycolytic pathway, not as much. Like I said, all the energy systems are training at the same time. So something that you need to know is time is not the determining factor. It's time plus intensity plus recovery. How long does it take you to recover? And if you're in the gain zone, that short 10 to 15, you should be doing, say, 10 to 15 seconds worth of extreme burst rest, and then let's say 10 to 12 seconds, and then your rest should be 10 to 15 times that. So anywhere from 2.5 to 3 minutes of rest after you go like all out on an airdyne or a sled or a rower or whatever. And then in the pain zone, you go all out for 2 minutes as hard as you possibly can, like wanting to throw up afterwards. That is should take about 15 minutes to fully recover. Heart rate back to normal, everything's good. Recover. And so that's kind of how you should be gauging it. Not just the time domain, not just like, I did a really hard workout for 2 minutes. That was the glycolytic pathway or the pain pathway. That's not how that works. And then aerobic. Aerobic's a little bit easier, and this is what we all train most of the time when we're doing these workouts. Because if you're not pushing yourself real hard, like you're just in the aerobic pathway. Like when I'm doing Murph, I'm just in the sustain or aerobic pathway that whole time. Some of the other energy systems are being used, but really I'm just because I could do it for a long time. I've done Murph 2 times in a row. I could probably push it to 3 if I really had to. So I'm definitely not in those shorter time domains. I'm not in the gain zone. I'm not in the pain zone. I'm definitely in the sustain. I could just keep going and going as long as I have the fuel in my body to keep going. Now, some other things to point out is if you're extremely untrained, if you're weak, you don't have a lot of strength, even if you're, say, an aerobic athlete, like a triathlete or something, it's going to be very hard for you to train the gain aka phosphocreatine system, if you're not already strong. If you don't have the strength, then you really can't even train it. So step one is getting stronger. And that's what I talked about at the beginning of this podcast is step one, go get strong, go get fit, and then come back and we can talk about energy system training or how to keep pushing yourself. And so if you're not strong enough, you can't do it. And then also, if you're not interested in pushing your performance, some of the stuff isn't necessary. If you're not interested in performance, you're only interested in being fit and healthy, then you could just train the aerobic system and get a little bit stronger, and you'd have, and that would probably be the best route to go for longevity and just being healthy and fit. Because you don't have to train that glycolytic or pain zone to just be healthy and fit. And most people don't. A lot of people never go there because it's really, really, really painful. Like, I don't even like to go there, but, I try and force myself. And that's what I want to bridge into. I tried to go over that as quickly as possible, science-y-esque type stuff there, just for some of the athletes and coaches out there. Just my main takeaway for you is don't let the energy system pathways be these buzzwords that make you sound smart. What actually matters when training energy systems is the time, the intensity, and the recovery. So the time, yes, it matters, but only if you're being extremely intense, and the intensity has to match with that recovery time. So if it's taking you a long time to recovery, then yeah, you probably actually hit it. But if you're a really conditioned athlete, and I talked about this with Mike McGoldrick in our interview, is the fact that if him and I both got on an Airdyne because he's a lot fitter than me, and I go all out on an Airdyne for 10 seconds and say I pumped out, I don't know, 20 calories or something like that. I don't know what I would actually get right now. And he did the same. I might be on the floor, gassed. I really trained the gain energy pathway, and he might just be like, okay, well, I'm ready for more. So it really depends on who you are. So he needs to push it to like 30 or 40 calories. And so that's all I'm saying is you need to know where to push yourself. And I bring all that up because this is where I talk about finding myself most often. I could always just put in the reps, build a good habit doing fitness, but if I really want to get better and fitter and perform more, I have to be going into these terrible places, these energy system zones to get better. And they are painful. And I found a few ways to do it to kind of make sure that you're getting there. And that's going to be the last thing I cover before I do some shred stuff. So first, if you want to get into the gain zone, that shorter 10 energy pathway, like I said, first, you have to have some level of strength to even get there. And the way to do so would be you could do Airdyne, you could do a rower, you could just do sprinting, you could do sled pushes, anything max effort for 10 to 12 seconds, then resting 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes before doing it again. And you could start off with just doing 3 sets of that and see how you feel. It's going to be pretty brutal the first time. I know when I had some family over last Christmas, and they wanted to work out in the garage, and the only thing that they stated is they wanted the workout to be hard. And I knew how to do that, and that was getting people into this pathway with the Airdyne, and my brother-in-law threw up everywhere, and it was really bad. And I wasn't necessarily trying to do that on purpose, but I like to show people, if you've never been in this energy system before, your body's not going to respond to it very well initially. So that's a quick way to do that. And to be honest, that one, I other than the workout recommendation, there's not a real way to know other than you knowing. Does it take that full 2.5 minutes for you to recover before you can do it again? That's kind of like the light bulb in your head that should go off. Now that pain zone, that up to 2 minutes zone, a good workout that people throw around, kettlebell swings, burpees, and rowing. And you could play with the sets here, but I mean, you 15 kettlebell swings, 15 burpees, and then 60 seconds row or whatever. It really depends on how fast you can move because, like I said, we're going to stay under that 2 minutes. And so just doing that, I don't know, AMRAP 2 minutes as fast as possible. That, all out effort. I'm talking about all out 100%. There's no way at 2 minutes and 1 second you could handle going that pace any longer. You could keep moving, but you couldn't keep that same pace. That's where you should be. And then also you're going to, right after you're done, maybe start a stopwatch and see how long it takes you to actually recover. Does it take the full 10 or 15 to 20 minutes to recover? If so, then you are probably in that pain pathway. And this is the pathway that no one trains One, it's the most ridiculous. It hurts the worst, and it's no fun, but it makes you a lot better. And like I said earlier, it's not necessary if you're just trying to be fit and healthy. All right, and then the sustain. Sustain is actually pretty easy, and I do think that if you've been an athlete for a while, or like I have a tendency to do this, I might be doing some sort of CrossFit style or metabolic conditioning workout, and I'm pushing myself pretty hard to where it looks like I'm in that glycolytic pathway. It looks like I'm training in the pain zone if someone were to be watching on the outside. But realistically, I know that I'm in the sustain zone because I could probably keep going beyond the 2 minutes. And so it's really easy to know whether or not you're there. But sustaining is pretty simple. You take, say you did a max effort mile run, or you did a max effort 2K row. You can kind of take that pace, whatever pace you were, and you could say add 10 to 15 seconds to it, and then just do 10 intervals of it, 20 intervals of it, 30 intervals with it, with some rest every 10 or something like that. And that's a really easy way to build the aerobic pathway to be able to get more, to sustain more. A lot of people, it's going to feel easy, and it should, because you should be able to sustain it for a long time. That's also another trap some athletes get into, is they think that since it's not as hard as some other things, that it's not going to make them better. But it's a completely different energy system, and it's trained in a different way than the other two. So the big thing here is, you've probably heard me talk about, is meter goals. I've talked about a lot. So like doing the 30 intervals, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, while maintaining a certain interval pace, but having a meter goal every single 30 seconds. Things like that, that's how you're going to make sure that you're in these energy pathways. So like if you're in the pain zone, you kind of have to set a baseline, knowing that, okay, I have to hit this many calories on the Airdyne to be all out. And that kind of becomes your baseline for a little while when you're training that energy system. And then same with aerobic. So to answer the big question, how do you know that you're continually pushing yourself? Is it's really going to be time plus intensity plus recovery. So what energy pathway were you in based off of the times that I listed? How intense was it? And then also, how long did it take you to recover? And that's a big one right there. How long did it take you to recover, to know if you're actually training it? And that's what I want to challenge everyone out there to do. Maybe this week, try and hit up the pain zone at least one time this week. I know when I program for all the End of 3 Fitness athletes, I have to find creative ways to try and make people stay on pace or do different things to be able to hit these goals. And it takes a lot of creativity when you're programming for so many people, but I find ways to do it. When you're programming for yourself, it's really easy, because you just can gauge your own intensity right away in your recovery time, and then you're fine. But that's enough on energy system training. Hopefully I did not bore you too much. This is, from time to time, I will throw out the nerd alert and kind of get into this stuff and maybe talk about something that's a little more advanced than someone who's just trying to get a little bit stronger, someone who wants to really push the performance. But there's no reason you shouldn't know these things, no matter who you are. Like I said, this is a primer on building better human beings through energy system training. Now moving into the next and last segment of the show, we do have a new program that opened this week, and it's only open for a few more days as of this podcast, and it's called Shred, Leaning, Cutting, Losing Fat with a Barbell. We've already had a ton of athletes join, and there's still a little bit of time if you want in. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the audio from the kind of the promo video we have, because one, I think that it has some good information in there that could help you, and two, if you have any interest in Shred at all, we are open for a few more days, and so you have the opportunity to join. Like I said, you can find the link in the show notes. Go to into3fitness.com and you'll find it there. So without any further ado, thanks for listening to the podcast this week. Because I'm out of here after I play this audio. So if you did like the podcast, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating and a positive comment. Thanks for listening, and until next week. But here is the Shred audio. There are a lot of people in this world telling you how things should be done. It's this program, it's that diet. It's a shot of 6-pack abs on a beach. It's people who have the time to train 5+ hours a day telling you how things should be done. It's a celebrity endorsement. It's your favorite athlete telling you through social media what diet they follow. It's another half-naked picture. There are a lot of people in this world telling you how things should be done. But what does it actually take? I have been a coach and programmer for a long time and have had hundreds see the exact results they were looking for. And through watching these athletes over the years, I get it. I now know the secret. The secret is the training is the easy part. The secret is that you were not a product of my program, their program, this diet or that diet. The secret is action. The secret is not what you do today, it's what you do every single day. You want to shred body fat, drop the pounds, and get cut up? Then you're not looking for science. The science is too easy. Science tells us cutting back on the carbohydrates and lowering insulin will lead to restricted calorie consumption and near effortless weight loss. Science tells us reducing stress will reduce the production of cortisol, so you will have good insulin resistance and you won't store as much fat. Science tells us lifting weights will burn calories and help keep your metabolism moving quickly. Science tells us drinking water, especially before meals, will help you eat fewer calories and will boost your metabolism. Science tells us leptin resistance can be reversed by avoiding sugar, fructose, grains, and processed foods when coupled with high-intensity exercise. The truth is, if you're looking to shred, you aren't looking for the science. If you're looking for the science, I tell you this. If you want to get shredded, you should reduce or nearly eliminate your carbohydrate consumption, primarily sugar, fructose, grains, and processed foods. Cutting liquid calories will help big time. Do everything you can to reduce stress in your life, whether at work, at home, or anywhere else. Be active. Try to work out 3 times a week and make it either lifting heavy weight, high intensity exercise, or low level aerobic exercise, and eat healthy fats, protein, and a lot of vegetables. Did that really help? Are you still watching? If you're still here, you want more. You deserve more. You deserve a program that goes way beyond sets, reps, and weights. You deserve more than mindless exercising. You deserve a program that tackles your brain just as much as it does your brawn. You deserve a program that gives you a diet that helps you, not some elite athlete. A program that sets you on the course of taking daily action like following a GPS in a car. But we can't start there. Not yet. First, you have to know. You have to know it is 100% possible to achieve your goals. Yes, eating right matters. Yes, working out matters. But if you don't think you can achieve it, everything else is useless. You can do this. It doesn't matter what you say or why you think you can't. Say it to me and my response will be the same every time. You can do this. Jerred, you don't know how many times I've tried. I've done diets. I've tried different exercises, programs. You can do this. Jerred, I can't stay motivated, man. It works for a little while, but then everything falls apart. You can do this. Jerred, you don't know my schedule, my life, or what I face on a daily basis. You can do this. You can do this. You can change your diet little by little, just one thing at a time. It will feel forced and awkward, and you may even hate it, but it will start to work. The training won't be fun. You may not enjoy pushing yourself and trying to find the time to fit it into your schedule, but the results will start to show. But what you can't do is sit around and twiddle your thumbs. You have to do something. Don't feel sorry for yourself or think about how you'll never achieve your goals. You have to do something. Believe in yourself and your ability to achieve your goal. It's that simple. Shred will be more challenging for some than others, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't pursue your goals. But if you know you can do this and you're ready to do and you're ready to take action, I welcome you to end Shred. We're going to do things a little bit differently than you're used to. We're going to transform you, not just throw you a PDF with some exercises and videos. You deserve more. Welcome to End Shred.
your best. Losers always whine about their best.